Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Just a reminder that full-length meetings, special events, and every program we air here on Channel 18 can be viewed online. You can find it all in the town's video archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. The Barnstable Town Council met last Thursday and voted positively on a number of grant acceptances. Two other issues highlighted the meeting. First was a proposed ordinance which would increase fines for vehicles on Sandy Neck Beach. The rationale was given by Sandy Neck Park Manager Nina Coleman.
Good evening. Nina Coleman, Sandy Neck Park Manager. The language changes before you are overdue. The language for our general ordinances as they pertain to Sandy Neck are quite outdated. They refer to a Sandy Neck Governing Board, which has since become the Sandy Neck Board. And they also often refer to a Sandy Neck inspection sticker, which confuses everybody. They think it's a vehicle inspection sticker, and what that language is actually trying to talk about is our Sandy Neck permit, which is a sticker, but very confusing language for the public, very confusing language when we go to court, when folks don't have the correct permit on their vehicle, and the court magistrate is like, inspection sticker, what does this mean? So that language we're trying to clean up as well. Further, the fines need to be defined a little better in the general ordinances. We're asking to have a $50 fine for our Sandy Neck regulation violations. Those violations are very broad. There's many of them. They range from like dog off leash, parking below the berm, campfire too early, all those sort of daily important regulations that we do need to uphold at Sandy Neck, and we're asking for a $50 fine for those regulation violations. Another big one is not airing down. Everybody knows you have to air down, and we like to be able to find folks when they go out there and tear up our beach. And finally, driving on the beach without a valid permit is presently a fine of $100, and the permit is $150 for non-residents. So it seemed a little backwards to have it that way. So we're requesting that, as well as driving in a closed area, which includes the plover areas and our back trails. Those are really important areas that we keep protected, bringing both of those fines up to $150. I'm available for any questions, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We have any questions?
A public hearing.
I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone from the public like to speak to this item? Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I should mention that the Sandy Neck Board has reviewed these changes and unanimously recommends approval of them.
During the discussion, a question came up about the differences between a civil violation and a criminal violation.
Counselor, I think the question is how do you get to the difference between a civil infraction and a criminal infraction? And
I might defer to Tom Geiler on this. I don't think it's an exact science. I think we try to impose a more stringent financial penalty when it is, we view it as a criminal offense and more serious and repeated.
so I think what the question is how do you make, can regular beach employees write a ticket? Who writes the tickets for a violation? And then, do you make an arrest or do you get a citation for a criminal offense? And is that done by the police department?
Again, I might defer to Tom Geiler. The tickets are written by the Sandy Neck personnel. If the matter turns into a criminal matter because they haven't paid the fines, then the criminal penalty, fine penalty can be imposed.
In other actions, the Town Council discussed a proposal dealing with the storage of vehicles, trailers, boats, and recreational vehicles on private properties. Councilor James Crocker gave the rationale, which was followed by a question from Councilor Ann Kennedy.
2011-004, amending the general ordinance C-228, vehicle storage, as drafted. Move to a public hearing.
Thank you. Do we have any of the members of the public who would like to speak to this item? Seeing no one, I'd close the public hearing. Who has the rationale? Vice President Crocker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The purpose is that we've had a number of discussions that have gone from a good neighbor policy to a actual complaint through the courts. And the difficulty for us is obviously the financing of services to get us all the way through the process when we're trying to enforce some type of a good neighbor policy here. And what we're looking at is the difficulty that occurs every time we go through the process with the wording of it and what is actually the problem area. For instance, if someone had more than one boat on their property and they were registered, you would have to run down the registrations of the boats to see if in fact they were storing their own boats or they were storing other people's boats. So there's a number of issues that seem to intrude on the need to mix services between regulatory, police, and then eventually on to our legal staff. And this has consumed quite a bit of time and quite a bit of expense for our town in the past. And this is an attempt to find a policy that might assist us in giving alleviation to the neighborhoods who feel they may be wronged by the amount of storage that occurs there. The purpose is to let everybody enjoy their private property, but not at the expense of your neighbor. So it gives you counts of vehicles before you must try to fence them in or either naturally or with a fence option to try to find them as limiting on site to your neighbor, imposing the site issue on your neighbor. And there seems to be no cost. It could be done simply through a letter campaign from Town Hall.
Councilor Kennedy.
I have a question. What happens when someone who has a mobile home is visiting you or someone? Is that in violation?
I would ask David to assist us in the clarification. David was kind enough to assist us based on past practice of a couple of problems we had, and he assisted me in the drafting of the document.
I would say not. That's covered by Section 240-45, I believe, as part of the zoning ordinance. Mobile homes do have to be kept in the rear of a lot, but if they're kept in the rear of a lot, they're acceptable.
I have a serious problem with this ordinance because I live in a precinct where we have quarter and third acre lots, and there really isn't a lot of space for behind homes or screening, keeping things out of sight. And even further, when I look out my back window, I see 4 or 5 other houses, and I see the backs of their houses, so everything in their backyards is clearly visible. So I'm assuming that we mean clearly visible from the street. But I drove around my precinct after I read this for the first time, and I can't even tell you how many people would be in violation right now. There are a lot of people who were not able to put their boats in the water this year because of finances. There's 2 boats, any more than 2 boats. I mean, I know people who've got boats that they weren't able to put in the water, some that trailer boats, some that keep them in. This would create a serious problem for a lot of the people in my precinct that are already struggling. And I think the biggest problem is that we have such small lots that everything is visible. So I have a serious problem with this entire ordinance.
After more debate, the proposed ordinance was defeated. Now, let's take a look at this week's meetings. On Tuesday, September 7th, the Conservation Commission meets in the Town Hall hearing room at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, September 8th, the Old Kings Highway Historic District Commission meets at 7 p.m. in the West Barnstable Community Building on Route 149. And on Thursday, September 9th, Site Plan Review has a hearing in the Town Hall hearing room at 9 a.m. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.